Welcome to Talking Supply Chain. In each episode, top supply chain industry professionals and the nation's top thought leaders join host Brian Strait and share their unique insights to help supply chain managers stay one step ahead of their competition. This is Talking Supply Chain. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Talking Supply Chain. I am your host, Brian Strait, and I'm pleased you're with us today for this discussion on sustainability. Joining me is Linda Weber, Senior Global Sustainability Engagement Manager for Jabil, a Fortune 200 manufacturing solutions provider operating in over 100 countries. Jabil recently published its 2023 Sustainability Progress Report that details its progress toward meeting its 5 year sustainability goals. Linda is going to share some of those accomplishments with us today and maybe even some tips on how you guys, your own organizations, going on sustainability goals. Linda, welcome to Talking Supply Chain.
Thank you, Brian. Pleasure to be here.
Great. Glad you're with us. Glad to have this conversation with you. To get started, can you tell our audience a little bit about Jabil, yourself, and what the role you play there?
Absolutely. Again, I'm Linda Weber, the Senior Global Sustainability Engagement Manager here at Jabil. Jabil provides manufacturing, engineering, and supply chain solutions to hundreds of leading brands and has more than 100 sites positioned in various strategic places around the world. So we have a global reach that's combined with local expertise so that we can deliver our solutions that are customizable, also scalable. As a matter of fact, throughout your day, you might very well come into contact with products that Jabil has had a role in manufacturing. I joined Jabil back in 2015, originally as the environmental management representative, but now I currently see Jabil's 5 year sustainability growth strategy, environmental, social, and governance, or also known as ESG, for customer and other stakeholder engagements, environmental due diligence, and some non financial reporting.
Okay, great. Very large company, I know. Lot of touches a lot of parts of this earth, if you will, right? So I think it's nice that you're doing sustainability here. You really have a big impact, I think, as you with the broad reach that you guys have. The sustainability progress report that I mentioned, I kind of looked through it and found some interesting things in it. I want to get started with the fact that your company has this goal of being carbon neutral by 2045. So in the report, you listed some of the accomplishments you've had. For instance, 100% of your sites have management approved water conservation plans. But there are
Mhm.
other areas where things maybe aren't quite as far along. For instance, landfill diversion programs, which 5% of sites as of fiscal year 2023 had operating. You have a goal of reaching 20% or 20% of your sites achieving 90% or more landfill diversion by 2026. So, since in some cases you're farther along than others in some of these sustainability goals, how do you assess the progress that JBill has made so far? And in areas where you might need more work to accomplish some of these goals, what's the approach to continuing that progress? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, a great question. And a little background on that. In 2021, we conducted live surveys on samples of key stakeholders to better understand their social and environmental challenges that our employees, customers, suppliers, and others care about the most, and ask them to rank those priorities by level of importance in terms of their relationship to Jabil and
Mhm.
forming a type of materiality matrix. We then used those outcomes as well as information gathered in the literature research to create our first comprehensive 5 year sustainability growth strategy, which has about a dozen goals. And for each of those goals, we set measurable KPIs or key performance indicators. And we monitor their progress using these data driven dashboards, custom built by our IT people. And having these dashboards and making them visible to everyone in our organization to enable the monitoring of progress and seeing things where seeing where things are going well and which areas might need a little more attention has been crucial for ensuring progress towards target achievement.
Yeah.
And speaking to one of the examples you mentioned about water, we set a goal to reduce our global acquired water footprint, and our sites have all developed water conservation plans, which we track to completion. The sites that have water reduction opportunities have put projects in place to do that. And these efforts have allowed us to actually surpass our 5 year goal early. We realized a 19% reduction in intensity of our global water acquired in fiscal 23 compared to our fiscal year 2021 baseline. And we're working towards continuing that positive trend of efficient water use. But speaking to another one of the examples you gave around waste, we have a goal to reduce waste in our operations and increase the number of our sites, of our global sites that are zero waste to landfill certified. And we align to this standard called UL 2799. And to earn that certification, a site must meet this minimum criteria, which we set at a 90% or greater landfill diversion rate for at least a year. And in fiscal 2023, we had an interim year goal out of our 5-year strategy to have 5% of Jabil sites to hold this status. And we aim to increase that to 20% of our sites by the end of fiscal 2026.
Yeah. You,
Um,
oh, sorry. Did you want to?
well,
No.
the great advantage, I mentioned the stakeholder engagement, and the
Yeah.
great advantage of that, um, one of the great advantages to using that approach to setting goals is our comprehensive strategy aligns with our sustainability ambitions with those with our customers.
Hmm.
And many of them are globally recognized brands. So earlier you mentioned that we have a far reach throughout the world. So this sets the stage for mutually beneficial collaborative arrangements that allow for greater opportunities to contribute positively to broader sustainability efforts, right?
Yeah.
It also creates new paths for responsible economic growth and value creation and long-term business resilience.
Yep. And that was where I was going to follow up, because you mentioned right at the very beginning. It sounded like you said you talked to your stakeholders, your client, your customers, right? So I mean, these were not goals that you guys just created out of the blue because hey, it's good to do this. It was goals that you created that tie into what either your customers want or what your customers are capable or stakeholders are capable of doing with you, right?
Absolutely. And that's how you achieve the greatest success and greatest positive impact.
Yeah.
And one more point I'd like to make is we emphasize the transparency of our performance and sharing our sustainability best practices among our own global sites and also with our customers and suppliers and others.
Yeah.
We have internal teams that review this data that we're putting out there. And we work with a third party assurance provider in addition to that to verify much of that ESG data. And we share those results in our sustainability report as well as other public platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's so great. I mean, there were companies out there that just do these things and they just do it in a vacuum, right? I mean, and they don't work with others that can help you and achieve things and create a common good for everybody. So I think that's really good. There's another program that I saw in the report that you guys are interested in or are involved in, and I thought this was interesting because we actually have an article coming up in an upcoming issue of the Supply Chain Management Review magazine on this exact topic. So I thought it was kind of timely that it ties in with that. But in Mexico, you've contracted with an energy procurement firm that has guaranteed that 50% of the energy supplied to your facilities will be green energy, and you're anticipating cost savings over 5 years with that arrangement. So, can you talk about how the ability to source energy from different entities rather than just the local energy provider, which I think many people just assume that you have to do, right?
Mm,
It can allow your company to meet sustainability goals and energy use and the advantages of doing something like that?
sure. The ability to source energy from different entities rather than relying on the local electricity provider all the time
Yeah.
can significantly contribute to a company's ability to meet sustainability goals in energy in several ways. By sourcing energy from different entities, companies can diversify their energy sources. And this reduces reliance on a single energy provider and decreases the risk associated with supply chain disruptions or price fluctuations, which we see a lot of now. Many companies aim to transition to renewable energy sources as an important part of their strategy to reduce their carbon footprint.
Hmm.
By sourcing energy from different entities, companies can tap into renewable energy providers, including independent renewable energy producers, community solar projects, or even directly investing in renewable energy infrastructure. And this allows companies to access a mix of renewable energy sources, yeah, like solar, wind, hydroelectric, geothermal, which can further enhance their sustainability efforts. And the strategy can offer cost savings opportunities.
Yeah.
So, depending on market conditions and regulatory frameworks, companies could potentially find competitive pricing options from alternative energy providers, especially for renewable energy sources. So, with a PPA like this one in Mexico, we are receiving certified renewable energy from our selected provider and further reducing our emissions at those sites. And this contributes to Jabil's goal of
Yeah.
transitioning to renewable power across our sites and helping to lower our scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions.
And I assume that working with a firm that can do this, right? That it's easier to create a comprehensive strategy, right? As opposed to going to your local electric utility and saying, well, we also want to do solar power. Now we're going to go find a solar provider. Then we also want to do wind power. We're going to go find a wind provider.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yes, and using that resource does help to facilitate meeting that goal.
Yeah. Um, you got Jabil you in your reports it said you exceeded your goal of a 25% reduction in scope 1 and scope 2 GHG emissions 2 years ahead of schedule. So congratulations
Mhm.
on that, right? A lot
Thank
of
you.
a lot of companies have had it.
A lot of
Um,
people did a lot of hard work. Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
but of note to that to me was the creation of an energy management council. I think you've done this a couple times. I we'll get into something else a little later. Where you've had this group, in this case, the Energy Management Council, that's tasked with aligning and facilitating site adoption of your new global energy management standard.
Mhm.
So, first, can you explain what that standard is, what it says, and secondly, can you explain the purpose of the council and the role that it plays in this effort?
Absolutely. To help continue the progress that we're making with reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we documented the good practices in this global energy standard.
Hmm.
That, along with other guidance documents and playbooks that we have in place, provides a framework for continuous improvement in energy efficiency, which drives reduced greenhouse gas emissions and energy costs. The Energy Council, consists of cross functional teams of energy experts from around the company who can help ensure that these good practices continue to be implemented and put in place at our various sites. Because, as you mentioned, one of our long term goals is to reach carbon neutrality by 2045. And a few years ago, to support that goal, we set science based targets that were determined by using an internationally recognized methodology for reducing our operational greenhouse gas emissions by 25% by the close of fiscal 2025. So those are very robust goals
Yeah.
following that methodology for determination. And we were actually able to surpass that target with a 29% reduction at the close of fiscal 2023, so 2 years early. And to achieve this, we relied on a simple yet effective three-pillar strategy, and we refer to it as reduce, produce, and procure. And so what that entails is first we look for ways to maximize energy efficiency in our operations, such as making equipment upgrades as appropriate and streamlining processes to utilize the minimal amount of energy needed. And then next, we produce renewable energy like solar on site where we feasibly can. And this produces some of the power, but there are limitations. So, a crucial piece of our strategy is to do like what we did in Mexico, procure clean energy from utility companies through power purchase agreements, where energy is delivered to the site from a renewable resource.
Yeah, and the council. I mean, it sounds to me too that if you have these goals, and like we mentioned early on, I mean, you guys are in 100 plus countries, right? I mean, you got I don't know, whatever it's tens of thousands of
Well, 30
employees,
plus countries. We have over 100 sites in
100
the
sites.
globe.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in order to try to corral all of that, right, and create a company wide company wide goals, I mean, I imagine having a council makes that really easy to set company wide, and then the individual departments, individual facilities can adopt as they need. Is that would that be correct?
Definitely. That ongoing collaboration, particularly as you mentioned, in a company this large, is very important for making sure that these practices are shared, that people are aware of our goals
Yeah.
and expectations and strategy for getting there. And the council is one of the mechanisms for making sure that that communication happens.
Yeah. And like I said, in a lot of areas and a lot of projects, right, that you guys are doing too. It's not just this. I mean, energy is what is a big part of this, obviously. But you're doing other things too, and I found that interesting in the report. And one of those, like last year, you guys planted over 13,000 trees across Asia as part of
Yes.
your net zero forest project.
Yeah.
So we hear companies like, hey, if you do this, we plant a tree, et cetera. But can you kind of talk about your project and what it is and how this kind of came about and what you're doing with this?
Yeah. Yes. As part of the Jabil Net Zero Forest Project, thousands of employees across our Asia sites helped plant over 13,000 trees in fiscal 2023. And there are plans to continue with these efforts in fiscal 2024. So planting trees is a great approach to help mitigate the climate crisis and also to restore the natural habitats for countless organisms.
Yep.
And the reforestation also helps to prevent landslides, safeguarding the villages that may be situated below the reforestation area. Elsewhere in Asia, our Taichung site adopted nearly 1,000 acacia and maple trees in collaboration with the local forestry bureau. And these efforts are popping up all over the place, such as in Mexico, the Dominican Republic, India, Malaysia, Vietnam, Ukraine, just to name some, also hosted reforestation and tree planting efforts throughout the year. And when you look at this in its totality, our purpose driven employees are really working well to make a positive difference here.
Yeah.
And I should mention, as a side note, Jabil does not claim carbon offsets from tree plantings as part of the current corporate level global strategy for carbon neutrality, which is initially focused on reducing actual greenhouse gas emissions as much as we can.
Yeah.
Instead, tree planting is typically part of our Jabil Cares platform for community outreach and volunteerism. Through that Jabil Cares program, the teams from our sites around the company implement a localized strategy to invest in their communities in ways that are the most meaningful to them in the areas of education, empowerment, and the environment.
So this is not an effort like some companies have, which is simply, hey, we'll just look good by planting a bunch of trees and saying we did that, and then we claim it as an offset, and we can reduce our emissions totals, right? The paper totals, if you will, by doing that. This is something you guys actually care
Right.
about
This
and
is
you're
the
doing.
sites, and
Yeah.
very, very. So our Jabil Cares program does drive these activities, but a lot of times you'll see the sites independently coming up with these plans on their own and going out there and planting trees and undertaking
Yeah.
numerous other environmental initiatives.
So this is the community service portion of your sustainability journey, if you will, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Um, as you go, one thing we hear a lot about in industry these days is it's circular economy, and
Hmm.
that's a popular term when it comes to sustainability. Two questions on this: can you kind of explain how you see circular economy fitting into sustainability efforts for businesses, and more specifically, how does J-Bill's I mean, you guys manufacture products. How are you contributing to the circular economy
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way?
that's an important question. So to clarify the circular economy definition, it's a production and consumption model that aims to turn materials and components that are obsolete or at the end of life in their products into new products and
Hmm.
other applications potentially, thus extending their life in the value chain as long as possible. And the companies have a lot to gain from both a sustainability and a bottom line perspective by keeping products and materials in the value chain rather than sending them to landfill or even
Yep.
incineration. And this helps to protect the environment by several ways: slowing down the demand for natural resources and virgin materials, reducing landscape and habitat disruptions to get to those virgin materials, helping to limit biodiversity loss, reducing raw material dependence, and it can save consumers money. And Jabil is currently engaged in various circular economy partnerships. One that I can mention, we expanded that capability recently by acquiring a company called Latronics,
Mhm.
which is a provider of component recovery, reballing, retinning, component authenticity testing services to help our customers recycle and reuse electronic components, which what we specialize in.
Yeah.
These services enable the safe extraction of embedded valuable components from printed circuit boards and other electronics. This minimizes waste and creates new value channels, mitigates future component obsolescence, and while maintaining, that security and quality and certification standards. And so, from a sustainability perspective, Jabil can help companies minimize their contributions to the growing global waste and e-waste problem through circular economy, as well as reduce their reliance on new materials.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of ways that companies contribute to circular economies. I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that, and you went out and you invested in a company, right? I mean, you bought another company that does this to invest in it, and
Mhm. To expand
you
our
know,
services for our
yeah,
customers. Mhm.
to grow that. I want to shift to another topic. Going back to, I mentioned previous question about the Energy Management Council and how you created this little thing. Another thing that you guys did last year, and I thought this was interesting as well, is that you selected about 100 employees that participated in a specialized training program that's part of the ISO 14001 standard.
Mhm.
So that standard, for people out there, I didn't know this, I had to look this up myself, but it's it's for the environmental management systems. It's a standard for environmental management systems, which create frameworks to manage environmental practices at companies. So obviously, sustainability related, obviously. Um, but the people within your company that you trained on this, they're going to be part of what you guys are describing as an internal audit team. I don't know if that's the name you're using, but an internal audit team.
Yeah.
What is that team? What role does it play in? Is this something that you guys needed to have in order to help Jabil meet your future sustainability goals?
Well, it's part of our continuous improvement. The ultimate goal of an ISO 14001 environmental management system is to minimize the impact an organization has on the environment. So, the successful implementation of that program is important for the success of our environmental sustainability strategy.
Yeah.
And having it third party certified is an attestation of that commitment. And so so we'll call it our ISO internal audit team. They serve a vital role in identifying gaps that may exist in this system that provides the framework for our management system
Okay.
so that they can be corrected for proper system functionality. And it ensures performance excellence when it's time for a site's ISO program to be validated by an independent third party auditor for certification purposes. And having this regionally based network of these ISO internal auditors creates a larger pool of qualified auditor staff. And it saves significantly on environmental and financial costs of traveling extensively or hiring
Yeah.
outside resources to accomplish this auditing. But more importantly, the insights that are gained from well trained ISO internal auditors bolster our continuous improvement efforts and underscore our commitment to responsible sustainability practices.
Yeah.
So, an effective environmental management system improves our ability to proactively and manage our environmental risks and opportunities, and it increases stakeholder confidence in our commitment to excellence and minimizing environmental impacts.
Yeah. Are they? Is this what their job is, or is are these responsibilities on top of another job that they may have within the company?
Oh, these are responsibilities on top of other jobs they have in
Okay.
the company. A lot of times that they work in our environmental health and safety department, but they might also work in quality, operations, and other roles so that we get a diversity of opinions and eyes on our processes.
Yeah.
As long as they're well trained to evaluate the functionality of the environmental management system, they add a lot of value to its success.
Yeah. We are. We've got a few minutes left. We've touched on a number of different things, and I think any one of the things that we've already mentioned probably could be a podcast unto themselves. As we dive deeper into them, and
Agree.
maybe some point in the future we could dive into a particular topic and somewhere down the road. But wanted to give you an opportunity because I know you. There's a lot of things in that report, that sustainability report that we mentioned a couple times. Wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of share a few of the other areas that Jabil is working on in sustainability and some of the areas where you found some success, perhaps.
Yeah, I would love to. So we define sustainability at Jabil as the integration of environmental health, social responsibility, and robust corporate governance processes coupled with economic growth. And one of the key sustainability priorities is contributing to the health and well-being of our people
Mhm.
and the communities where we operate. And for the second consecutive calendar year, Jabil employees volunteered an amazing 1 million hours plus of community service back to our local communities. And this is an incredible contribution. And it underscores Jabil's commitment and the dedication of our employees to supporting the communities in which we live and work. We've also implemented at least two health and well-being programs, sometimes many more, at 99% of our manufacturing sites. Um, for example, group fitness classes, flu vaccination drives, mental health consultation programs, and things like that to help ensure the health and well being of our employees.
Yeah.
And we've also established and qualified 25 programs for our employees with disabilities across our global footprint. And these programs can include things like our efforts around hiring and retaining initiatives,
Yeah.
infrastructure upgrades for improved accessibility, unconscious bias training for all of our employees, and making them sensitive to these needs. And when we think about the success we've had in meeting our sustainability goals so far, from emission reduction to employee health and being to community service, it's really all about collaboration. And we are being acknowledged in an unsolicited way by recognitions from outside entities, such as World's Best Companies of 2023 by Time and Statista, Investors Business Daily for being among the best ESG companies, also America's Most Responsible Companies, America's Greenest Companies, Best Place to Work for Disability Inclusion, and the list goes on. So being transparent and sharing best practices both within Jabil and with our customers and suppliers, et cetera, we're making real contributions towards a more sustainable future for now and for our future generations.
Yeah, love to hear it. I especially like the disability part.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have a daughter that has Down syndrome, and we are um, right now. She's in a transition program. I'm not going to go into big details, but she actually has a job offer
Oh,
at
wonderful.
a company in our area right now that she's going through the application process, but once she gets through that, she should have the job, and it's so good. It's not enough companies out there that take advantage of the not take advantage, but utilize the workforce out there of disabled people that have so many
Yes.
skills to offer.
So many skills to
Yeah.
offer and great contributions. Yes.
Yeah, so that's just my little aside on the conversation here, but
That's
my
absolutely wonderful.
contribution. So, but it's always nice to hear about those things. So, I think the big takeaway for me from this though is collaboration, right? I mean, you're not doing any of this stuff in a vacuum. You're working with your customers, your stakeholders, your employees, and your communities as well to find the success that you're having.
Yeah, that's absolutely critical for our success. Sustainability cannot be done in a vacuum. We
Right.
all need to talk to each other, share best practices, and collaborate so that we can get the maximum value out of our sustainability efforts.
Yeah. Great. Great. We're out of time, unfortunately. Linda, I want to thank you so much for taking time today and sharing some of Bill's sustainability journey with us and some of the highlights of your program. Want to thank all of you out there that took time out of your day to listen today. I greatly appreciate that. I'm sure Linda does as well. A new episode of Talking Supply Chain comes out each Thursday. You can find it on scmr.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Brian Straight, and you've been listening to Talking Supply Chain. Talking Supply Chain is produced by Supply Chain Management Review and Peerless Media. You can find it on scmr.com, supplychain247.com, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. For more information on this topic or to sign up for our weekly newsletter, a print or a digital subscription to our publication, visit scmr.com. We hope you will join us for our next episode. For Supply Chain Management Review, I'm Brian Straight, and thank you for listening.